You have just tuned in to the Avrum Rosensweig show, appropriately named after me. You might think I'm a bit of a narcissist, but I'm not, or so I think. The show is pretty much brand new, and the idea behind the show is to really focus on regular folks who are superhuman beings, of which I would argue that most people are. Everybody has a story to tell. And when you really dig and you really get to the core of who people are, you start to understand, my God, everybody has a gift. And there's greatness within all of us, within the souls and spirits of every human being. And there's some bad folk out there, no question. But mostly just people are good and they have experiences in life. And it's just a pleasure to hear them. One of the things that I've decided to at the top of my new podcast is to focus a lot on Israel. And for obvious reasons, since October 7th, there's been a lot of stuff going on in Israel. A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people were killed. There are hostages, of course. And Ellen, you're starting up already, are you? That's okay. We love your dog. And I thought it'd be really, really good to speak to Israelis or affiliated people who have an affiliation with Israel. So far, I started off with Devorah Mason, who's my niece, and she has 5 children, a couple of them who are in the Army. And I want to hear from her, what is it like to be a mom with children who have been called up? And she's very, very articulate. Have a listen to that show with Devorah Mason. My second show was with Dr. Bradley Strauss, who's a world-renowned cardiologist. And as soon as October 7th happened, he said, why am I here? And he decided to fly to Israel and to volunteer there in a hospital and to help those who are suffering because of the war, and also just help out doctors with their regular patients so they can be freed up for war responses. And finally, just last week, I interviewed Eli Rubenstein, who is the spiritual leader of Congregation Habonim, as well as the international education director for March of the Living. And Eli's a storyteller, and he told a lot of stories about Hanukkah, and then more specifically about Israel, October 7th. A lot of stories of bravery and courage. I'm going to have some fascinating interviews come up over the next few weeks. I'll be speaking to people like Nate Leipziger, a renowned Holocaust survivor and activist, Hillel Halkin, who's an Israeli writer, and a few others, including Dr. Shana Novak, who's an international global clinician and is the CEO of CISPO, which works with Arabs and Israelis on various different medical issues. So why don't we get started now on our show this evening? The show is called How Children Think. And why I was compelled to do the show is because I was reading a book on Piaget, the great child psychologist. And there's a lot of really compelling stuff in this book about his theories on what happens in the minds of our little ones. So I decided that we would do a roundtable. And I invited out all very dear friends of mine. And the first person that jumped out at me was my good friend, 9-year-old Jewry. How are you, Jewry?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us.
You're
And
welcome.
yes, we asked you to be here because you're 9. That's it.
Yeah.
We also asked Ellen Schwartz to be with us. Ellen is an activist. She's a mom. And most of us know her through Jacob's Ladder, or what is now called Project Give Back. Ellen's a magnificent human being whose parenting, Jolie knows Project Give Back, very good, whose parenting was really demanding because of the fact that her son, he should rest in peace, Jacob, had Canavan disease. And she had to figure out, how am I going to relate to my son who couldn't hear, who couldn't see? And she figured it out magnificently. And we can't wait to hear from her this evening about how children think. I also invited my good friend, Bert Serfati. Did I say you already, Bert? I did a podcast.
No, you didn't.
I'm a little tired. I did another podcast. Bert is one of my oldest and dearest friends. And he raised two children who are now adults, both of whom would have, I guess, what we loosely call ADHD. And he, too, had to figure out what is the best way to raise my children so that they would fit in well in society, so that they would be happy people, and so that they would be able to use that gift. Not everybody knows ADHD is a gift, but Bert did. to further their lives and to make them great, and they are. Rachel Mammon, I've interviewed Rachel in the past on my previous iteration of my podcast. She is a kindergarten teacher. And I can't think of a better job except perhaps President of the United States, maybe.
Oh.
I love kindergarten teachers because they have to deal, or they're lucky enough to deal with, I don't know, 35-year-olds. Most of us are challenged by a couple of kids in our family, but Rachel goes in every single day, 5 days a week, and she uses her talents and her gifts to communicate with these little ones, and to make their time at school really precious. And she does that beautifully. So let's get going here. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me during the show. We are going to start off with our very dear Jolie. Once again, welcome, Jolie.
Thank you.
So you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
I can ask you kind of a broad question. How do kids think?
They think in color. They think in games. They think in like a perspective that they just want to have fun in life. Like they don't care about doing this. They just care about having fun. They would care about like games.
So
how
fun
do you know
would
that? Is that just you, or is that everyone, all the kids?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is that just you, or all the kids you think that way?
I would assume it's all the kids, because kids, like most adults think in the same way, and kids think in a different half.
Okay.
Jolie, how do most adults think?
I don't know, like my perspective, let's say boring.
Is that how you really feel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think adults understand you and other children?
I mean, it depends on the type of parent you have, or on the type of adult you're looking at.
So in your case, does your mom get you?
Most of the time, yes.
And do you think you get her?
Sorry. Yes.
Do you think you understand your mom?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
Sometimes. Right. Okay. So Rachel, again, a kindergarten teacher. Did Jolie hit the nail on the head? Do kids think in terms of colors and games?
Yeah, I think so. I think they think with their imaginations. They think with fantasy. They think with play. They think in concrete terms. So we have the ability to think cognitively and to put our ideas into sentences where they look at the world and see things in a sensory way. So if they hear something, if they can touch something, if they see it, then they understand it.
Tell me if this story is understandable to you, and Jolie, you too. There was a little girl, and her and her mom and dad were going to the airport. A story told to me many years ago. And the little girl gets to the airport, and she looks out the window, and she starts to see the planes take off. And she's probably 4 or 5 years old, and she starts to cry. And her mom and dad figure, okay, well, maybe she's tired. And she continues to cry and begins to sob. And this goes on for a long, long time, and she won't stop, and she's terrified, and she won't say why. Finally, her parents say, well, we can't do this. We're going to have to take her home. So they got her home, and she relaxed. And they said to her, honey, what happened at the airport? Why were you so upset? She said, I looked up at the sky and I saw all the planes flying away and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I didn't want to get small. Does that resonate, Rachel?
Yeah, it's real. It's concrete. She saw them disappearing. Where are they going?
Yeah,
Right.
they're disappearing.
Where are they going? And that's not clear.
And then a kid maybe where the plane's going is probably going to be, where is this plane coming from?
Right. Very good. Did you want to add anything there, Rachel?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what I was saying before, that they need it in front of them. Just imagine when we learn something new, you teach me something new right now, and I need it explained to me in a certain way. I'm a specific kind of learner. It took me like years and years to really understand that. I need it explained to me in a certain way. With a child, unless you can explain it to them in terms that they can see, feel, touch, experience it, you're just talking. It's just
Exactly.
noise. It's noise.
Exactly.
Jolie, do you have a lot of noise around you?
Yeah.
Like just
Not right now. I just have my mom in the house, so I don't hear much noise.
I just mean when adults talk.
Yes, definitely.
Do you hear?
They're not explaining it.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Sorry, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here. I also think that children feel.
Oh.
So, agree with
Definitely.
you, Rachel and Jolie, but they feel right away. They can read you. If you're smiling, and they know if you mean that smile, or they know if you're angry, they know you don't really mean that angry. Like
Yeah.
they really feel you, and they have such a great sense because it's so pure and natural, and it hasn't been tainted by the world yet.
Do you know that Charles Schultz had a brilliant understanding of little kids, and that's one of the reasons for the success of Peanuts. And if you remember the movie Charlie Brown movies, do you remember how the teacher used to speak? It's noise.
Wah, 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 wah.
Very,
Like that,
that's
right?
right. Exactly. Wah, 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 wah. And Charles Schultz was brilliant because he was saying what Rachel's saying, who knows because she's a kindergarten teacher, that when you start talking to kids and you go off on these soliloquies, all they do is hear your lips. They watch your lips and they hear the noise, and that's about it. So let me ask you in that light, Bert, again, raised two kids who are on their own, and beautiful kids who had a challenge of ADHD. Was that in sync with how you were when you were raising your kids, how your children responded to you? Too much noise wasn't good. Try to be efficient with your words.
I never really understood that at the beginning. I got that later on. I am a big talker when it comes to like my kids. Oh, and I would tell them all kinds of stuff, and I realized they didn't retain most of it. So the strategy I used was to ask a lot of small questions, just so I can get a response to see if they're listening and to see if they're there. And many times I noticed they were gone after one or two questions. Like they just don't want to be there. They don't want to listen to what I have to say. So it was just, and coming with things like that, you think, oh, how am I going to do it next time? What kind of strategy am I going to use to tell my kids next time that they'll listen? And then you just start honing your skill, I guess, if you want to call it, but also you understand how your kids work, and you can't just talk to them for 10 minutes straight and expect that they're going to listen to everything.
So one of the realizations about how your kids work is that they couldn't take in too much information, correct?
I don't know if they couldn't take in too much information. I think they didn't want to. They were so fast thinking and moving from one thing to the next that they just wanted to move on to the next thing.
Right.
And I don't care what you have to say. So if I had said anything, it better be fast, quick, and to the point. And then, okay, bye, see you later. And they got it, but they only got that one point.
Right.
It's all, okay, then do the next one later on.
I think the one of the major points that we can take away from what you just said is have a strategy when you're raising kids. Like you would try something, you would think about it, and then you would come back and build upon that, right?
Yeah, but at first I had no strategy because I didn't think I needed one. I didn't remember my dad having a strategy.
No, they didn't.
Right? So what the hell did I need one for? But when I realized I wasn't getting through, or there's some communication problem, or the school tells me stuff, and then I'm going, really? Like, why am I so disconnected from all this? Then it made me realize I got to get in there and I got to figure out what's going on.
Okay. One of the things that I saw with Bert as he was raising his kids, Ellen, this is directed to you, is that he has a childlike spirit. And by that, I mean he's a mature, responsible adult, done everything we're supposed to do. But when it comes to relating to kids, and I have this too, and I say thank God to that, I can get down and dirty and become a kid. I can do it. I can laugh really silly. I was with Jolie and her mom at Rachel's house for Shabbat, and Jolie,
I was
throughout the
laughing
whole evening,
so
she
hard.
laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And it was the greatest thing for me to witness, right, Jolie?
Yeah.
You were wonderful. Just
I
wonderful.
always lose when me and my cousins do try not to laugh. I'm always the first one to laugh.
That's a good thing, sweetheart. Now, Ellen, um, you had a son, Jacob, who Canavan disease. Is that correct? Did I say correct?
Yes.
Tell us about Canavan, and then I want to ask you a couple questions about your mothering of Jacob.
Okay. Well, Canavan is a rare neurodegenerative disease that attacks the central nervous system. So Jacob wasn't able to walk, talk, see, or move. He lost his ability to eat, and most children with this illness pass away by the age of 5. And you're going to hear all this, Jolie, next week in your class. But we luckily got to be with Jake every day for 21 years. And although a lot of those times were difficult, it was the best gift I had ever been given. Also with my other two, we have Beverly, who's 24, and
Yes.
Ben, who's almost 21. And they are also gifts, but Jacob just taught me so much about life and living life to the fullest, and inspired me to write 3 books and develop a whole curriculum based on his lessons.
So, Ellen, you and your husband find out very quickly that your son Jake has Canavan.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in the beginning they weren't quite sure, but at some point. At what point did you start to settle in and realize, okay, that's my son. I love him dearly, like any other child. Now I got to figure out how to raise him. How did that play out?
So, as you can imagine, we were devastated. We were shattered with this news. He was our firstborn, and we did try to help him help him cure this disease. And we were part of groundbreaking gene replacement therapy. Can you hear me? I think.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I think my iPod's just disconnected. So, can you still hear me? You okay? Okay, sorry. Groundbreaking gene replacement therapy. And he became so sick from this. He developed meningitis. He had an hour-long seizure. He was in a drug-induced coma. We didn't know if he was going to live after this. And once we stopped trying to fix him, he fixed us. And from that moment on, we were just, this kid is never going to cry, and we are going to enjoy every second we have with him. And that's what we did. And that's what Jeff and I did as his parents.
Ellen,
we
can I
just
interrupt?
loved him to bits. And if he was smiling, whatever we were doing, we just kept doing it. And music was a huge part of how we communicated with Jacob. And because of that, so many musicians used to come to our house and they used to sing to him. And that is just what he loved more than anything. So he was always surrounded by music. And he was just a dream to be around. He had a soul like just better than anyone I've ever met, like so pure and so beautiful and so warm. And he was just a magnet for like-minded souls. So
Or you had a
he was
question
the
for Ellen?
world.
Yeah, I was just saying, you said he couldn't move?
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Hold on. Oh no, sorry guys.
Can you
Okay.
hear me, Ellen?
I heard
Okay.
something fall on the floor. Was that your iPod or your little?
Talk to someone else because I'm having some sound issues.
All right. This is the beauty of
Did you
being
guys-
live. It has
Did you
its
guys hear
challenges, but there's nothing like being live. It's very exciting. Jolie, let's go back to you, okay? When Ellen explained her son Jake and the challenges that he had, do you know anybody like that? Do you know any kids with huge amounts of challenges?
I don't, but I know someone like that, and I think he's very proud of having it.
Oh yeah? Well, what is he like?
He's just so nice. I went to the CNE with him. Somebody took me with him, and we just bonded together. He was hugging me. He was so nice. I couldn't really understand. It was sort of like a and like That's how he could talk.
Yes. What did you do when you couldn't understand him? Because as adults, the most difficult thing when we don't understand someone is to keep saying, what? What? You want to stop at some point, right?
Yeah. Like, we would sort of look at his facial expressions, or like, I'd ask someone else because I think someone could understand what he was saying when we were with him.
One of the most beautiful things was I used to bring him into the classrooms, and all kids weren't like you, Jolie. Some kids were very uncomfortable with Jacob. But as soon as they started firing off questions, because as you know, most children are so curious and they just want the answers. They want to know. And I answered everything that they had to ask about him, and they saw his smile, like you said, like with that friend of yours, and they didn't see a big boy in a wheelchair. They saw this beautiful person who happened to need a wheelchair, and their whole perspective changed towards children with disabilities. So keep asking those questions, Jolie. It's so important.
Because honestly, I would find that the people disabled like that, I'd feel like the people that I've met who are disabled, like someone I know has a disease, I forget what it's, Down syndrome, and they're the best. She's she's the best person ever. I love her.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
She's an amazing actor. She's in a movie.
You're talking about Madison?
Yeah, Madison.
Yeah, yeah, she's amazing.
I love her.
Yeah. She was in Champions, the movie. Yeah, she is such a lovely human being. She's like you. She's filled with life. Like, that's the beauty. They just see all the good there is.
Like that are like the kindest people.
I think that the beautiful thing about the time that we live in, Rachel, ma'am, and tell me if you agree with this, is that we don't consider Down syndrome, nor do we consider autism a disease.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like that anymore. In fact, there's a huge focus on looking at individuals who have autism. I don't know if it's appropriate to say they're autistic. I don't know what's politically correct. And to recognize the gift within them. Would you agree with that, Rachel?
Yeah. I had somebody in my school who was like really smart, and he had autism.
Right. And were kids nice to them? Were they good to him?
Very. We loved him. He was so nice.
Good for you. Good for you.
He was like any other kid, but just
I think there's I think the same way that you say as a gift within them, and everyone has something that makes them special. It means everyone. The word disabled is so strong because it's like disease. It's like something that's bad, and they're differently abled. You just have to have the ability to find what that is. And as a parent, I think that's the challenge. I think the challenge is to look at your child. And I think that's with any child, to look at them and find what is amazing about them and nourish that and feed that. Yeah.
Rachel, you and I have talked a lot about your kindergarten classes because I'm really fascinated by how you teach. I mean, I'm just fascinated by your character to start with. You do stuff which is highly practical, highly childlike, sometimes childish. I remember when you had an aquarium when we were younger and one of your fish got sick, so you gave it a Tylenol.
Yeah. Medicine.
Which didn't help. Yeah, it didn't help. Rachel,
I got some tweezers. I scaled it down. I looked at the size of the fish. I did what I thought was logical. But medicine is medicine. At the vet, they actually use pharmaceutical drugs made for humans at the vet.
Yes,
so
they do.
Like, well, no one's going to save my fish. I either save him or, he goes down. So
good for you, Rachel. Rachel, one of the things we talked about, I remember, is you had a child in your class, and again, these kids are 5 years old, thereabouts. And he was one of those children. We all had them in our class who went off to the side. He wouldn't dance when the other kids danced. What did you do to encourage him? What did the other kids do based on your encouragement?
So I think that that's a culture you build. I think you have to start at the very beginning by letting that person get to know you. They are little, but they have everything that we have within us, within their little bodies. And they need to trust. They need to know that you are safe and that they can make mistakes with you and that you are still going to love them if they do something that's wrong or if they're not up to par. Walking into a classroom with a person you don't know, one of the first things that I say to the parents when they're giving me this JK for the first time and they're leaving their child with me is thank you. Thank you for trusting me. They are giving me their most prized thing in this universe and trusting me with their kid for more hours than they see them during the day. I'm with them for more waking hours than they're actually with their parents. Some of them go to daycare after, and I don't take that lightly. Like I don't know that it's appreciated by everybody, but I definitely don't teach in a box. I don't follow. Where did you say this is going to be?
There was a little kid who wouldn't dance. I know dancing's a big deal in your class. And I remember you spoke to the other kids about it, and they encouraged him to dance. Do you recall that? It was a couple of years ago.
Well, I can tell you that at first, when children come into my class and I put music on in the morning, and that's how we start, most kids are not dancing. They don't naturally just let loose in this new space with this weird teacher and get comfortable. But what I have found is when I allow myself to show
Jolie,
them,
honey, try to limit the noise there, honey. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
when I allow myself to show them that it's okay to be a dork, that it's okay to dance and to not know what you're doing and to let your body move and to close your eyes and let the music move you, they do it.
Yeah.
They do it and they watch each other. And what you're saying is true. They support each other. Like kids will grab the other kid's hand and like wiggle with them. And that's
Yes.
good. If that's what the music is making you feel, then do it. I don't. Yes.
Sorry, no, finish, please.
I don't. I remember growing up in a system where it was very clearly there was a right and a wrong, and I was very uncomfortable all the time at school. I was petrified that the teacher would call on me. I didn't want to raise my hand because if my answer was wrong, people would laugh. I don't have anything like that in my class. They understand. And there's aspects of my classroom that are pretty strict. There are things that are not tolerated. I don't, you're a lot more laid back about certain things than I am in your parenting, in your way. I don't tolerate them making fun of each other at any level. I don't find it funny. I don't find it okay. We were just joking. It's not a joke. My thing is, if we're not all laughing, it's not funny. We have to do it together. So I just, I'm a little bit boot camp also, right? Because they come from all different households with all different kinds of rules or no rules or just environments that sometimes even clash.
I want to segue this into another point. Bert, I remember when your little guy David was growing up, and he had what we would call a gargantuan amount of energy. I think Sir Fatty boys are like that. You're telling me about your new grandson, Mazel Tov. Congratulations.
It's a year and a half ago. He's not so new.
Mazel Tov. About how much energy he has running around and being very curious like you were growing up. But the challenge to that was that you took your son to a synagogue event or to a family's house, you'll remind me, and the people invited you another time, but they asked you to leave your son at home.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke.
Right. What was that all about? How did you
They were
respond?
serious. Because the first time he was there, it was at a somebody gets a new house, they make a party, and we all came over, and he just destroyed the house in like a really subtle way. Nobody knew. He stuck stuff down the heating vents, and he did things like that behind the scenes, and they only found that out later on when everybody discussed it and said, yeah, I saw David put socks down here, I saw him do this. So the next time there was an invitation, it was without him, and it really bothered me, but I kind of understood.
Right.
You
Did you
know?
go? Did you
No,
go?
I
Without?
didn't go. No way, I didn't go. I'm not going to go.
Right. And you did something really fascinating as he grew up. A lot of parents, when their children return from school, they say, now go and do your homework and then you can play. But you did the opposite. Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I said, first of all, there's no homework. No homework tonight, no homework any night. Number one. That's number one. Number two, as soon as he came home, I said, go to your room and play your drums. He had a drum set, and he would go wild on his drums, and he would just sweat for about 10, 15 minutes. And he would come out, and I would go, great, wash up, let's have something to eat. And he was fine. It just seemed that all day long, everyone's telling him, don't do this, don't do that. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And he's going crazy. It's like, who am I? Am I such a bad kid that everybody's got to give me shit all day long? Well, when I got him at the end of the day, I tried to turn it around. Instead of saying, go to your room, do your homework, wash up, do this, dinner time, and keep that whole thing going, I thought I'd give him a break. And I didn't figure it out on my own. That was from reading books. And I saw that once, and I said, wow, what a brilliant thing. I'm going to try it. And it worked so well.
Is there a book that you could recommend?
I don't remember. It's so long ago because my son is 25, and this all happened when he was 5.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Okay. Jolie, at the end of school day, is it a relief to leave school? Do you have all that pent up energy? Are you relaxed in school, or is it just great to get away from it?
I mean, it depends on the day. Let's say, like, on Thursday, when I wake up, I have something to look up to. Like, I'm going to chess club at lunch, and I get to play chess on my own, and it's fun. So I have something to look up to at school. But if it's like a Monday, there's art club. I love art, but it's not really fun there. So I just go out to recess. There's nothing really to look forward to, except maybe gym. But yeah.
Do you feel like adults are constantly telling you what to do?
I'd say they're constantly telling you what to do if they've asked you once nicely, or once like in the car, maybe on the way home, and then they constantly ask you if you don't do it.
Okay, so do you think you've kind of figured out adults?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you? What's a secret that you can share with other kids?
Just listen, then you get everything you want.
Okay.
Like I listened today, and I finally got a video game.
Oh, you finally did.
Finally, I've been waiting it for years.
So this show is all worth it, isn't it?
So you haven't listened for years.
Probably like 3 years, because when I was 6, I deleted it, and then I wasn't allowed to get it again. And today I finally got it.
Which video?
Roblox.
The box.
Roblox.
It's called the box.
The
Yeah,
box?
Roblox.
Roblox. Roblox.
Okay.
Ellen Schwartz. The philosopher John Locke believed that a newborn baby's mind is a tabula rasa, a blank slate, and that the more writing that is put there, the more intelligent the child becomes. Piaget, however, took the opposing view, and elaborating on what Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote, believed that child's play plays a very active role in the growth of intelligence. The child learned by doing. The world is not just observed and imitated, but interpreted. Piaget was not influenced by the classical learning theory of Hall and Tolman because it is based upon rodents rather than children. So you had this quite a big challenge in front of you. You probably had a great sense of how to raise kids. Was Jake the oldest? I'm sorry.
Yes.
He was
Yes,
the
he
oldest.
was the
Okay.
oldest.
So
Mhm.
this was your first time around then. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of parents have the benefit of kind of looking at traditional, child rearing and picking up on that. But you had that experience was much different in your household. How would you say that Jake learned? And how could you figure that out? How did you see his learning?
So I think Jacob was a born teacher, is what I think. I think that Jake knew everything he needed to learn in life. And I think he was here to teach all of us what life is really about. That's what I think. I really couldn't teach him anything other than to love him unconditionally. And we did that for 21 years, day and night. He had somebody beside him. He had somebody loving him, kissing him, singing to him, massaging his feet, doing therapy, going for walks, going swimming. Even when he slept, there was somebody holding his hand. So, but your first, where you were going at the beginning, which was really, I thought, really interesting, was sounded to me like a nature nurture thing. Are you born with this clean slate, or are you taught things? And I think it's a bit of both. But there's this one story I wanted to share with you. One of the schools that we run our program is in the Jane Finch area of Toronto. And the kids in this class have all had, a really rough life so far. Their lives at home are not easy. And they have so much love and so much faith. It blows my mind every time I go in there. And they are learning lessons that are just unbelievable because of their circumstances. But one thing I remember so clearly, and this is by we learn from our kids, like Jolie, we're learning more from you than we could teach you, which is really cool, is when Jacob passed away, I took 2 weeks off of work. And I came back to work, and that was the first school that I had to go to. And I walked into the school, I walked up to the hall, and a full classroom of kids came running, just full blast, running at me. Ellen, 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 Ellen. They literally hugged me from all sides, almost knocked me down. And that pouring of love that they gave me just gave me such purpose and meaning. And so back to that first question, I think that just children have so much to teach us. And that's what Jacob did to me. And that's what Jolie, you're constantly doing to your parents. They're teaching you how to be great parents. That's, what your kids are teaching you. So I hope I answered that. Okay.
Yeah, what I'd like you to do is just fill us in a little bit about what is Project Give Back, because we did talk about that.
So it's a program in many schools, like Jolie's school, and it teaches children to become more empathetic, compassionate, and community-minded by their own life experiences. So I think one of you said earlier, we all have a story. So basically, it's going home and finding out what that story is. And we teach the children the tools to share that story and speak right from their hearts. And when we all do that, we become kinder and more empathetic. So it's a year-long program, once a week, 40 minutes.
And it is outstanding. Bert, I want to put 4 or 5 different modes of parenting by you, international modes of parenting, and I want you to tell me which one most reflects your own type of parenting. So in Japan, and I'm sure nobody will be surprised by these, um, their parenting is predicated on independence and discipline. Japanese parents often encourage independence and self-discipline from a young age. Children are taught to be responsible for their belongings and actions. In Sweden, child-centric approach. Swedish parenting emphasizes a child-centered approach with a strong focus on fostering creativity, independence, and individuality. Parents in Sweden often encourage open communication and equality with the family. In Kenya, community involvement. This is one I like a lot. In many Kenyan communities, parenting is a communal effort. Extended family and neighbors play significant roles in raising children, providing support, guidance, and a sense of belonging. And here's the final one. In Israel, it's very interesting. It's military influence. In Israel, due to mandatory military service, there's often a strong emphasis on discipline, responsibility, and teamwork in parenting. Children may be raised with a sense of duty to the country. Bert, of those 4 or 5, which one most resonates with you?
Definitely Sweden. I mean, the Kenyan one might, but it's just not realistic in our environment. We can't. We have small families. We don't have big villages, and we don't all raise everyone else's kids. But I like the Swedish approach the best. It seems like it allows the kids to really be themselves without a lot of discipline and a lot of rules. That's just the Japanese a little bit too rigid. Who was the last one? It was
the Israeli, the military influence.
Yeah. It's a tough one for me too. Even though I would always want it to be in the military, but I prefer the Swedish way.
You know, for Rachel and for Bert, both of you can take this question. You are Sephardic Jews, Moroccan Jews. And amongst the Moroccan Jews, there are generally, or very often, very big families. Jewry also is a Sephardic Jew. And the families, when you were younger, would get together on a regular basis. You lived in the same building as your parents, Bert, and your kids would constantly, regularly, first thing in the morning, run down to your parents. And they were part of your village. That's why I actually thought you would choose Kenya, because your statement is correct that we don't live in villages anymore. But you actually created a village for your parents. And I know, Rachel, you have so many cousins that you would get together with on a regular basis, and you would all kind of raise each other. Is this accurate, what I'm saying?
Go, Rach.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me personally, I guess I don't have children of my own, but I have 18 nieces and nephews, and they're my life. Like I just literally wrote that to one of them today. They were going back and forth with me on text, and I sent them some pictures of us when we were younger together, and they were like, "Oh my God, like I don't know what we would have done without you. You're our mama chick, and and I don't know that I ever expressed to them how important they are in my life. But yeah, for us, it's a community. But Bert's right. I'm also hiding in my house. My niece is in her house. Everyone's sort of in their own little corners. Some of them are in Israel. Some of them are in Florida. Like it's not the idea of what you once told me we should do. You once said, I want to get a complex where all of our units are facing each other, and we can just come down to this gathering area when we want. And when I'm sick of you, I can go back to my little space.
Yeah, right. Bert, do you want to address that point?
Yeah.
No, I was kind of zoning out.
Okay. It's good to have a guest who zones out. Keeps us all astute. Jolie, I want to mention a few things that the experts say are important when speaking and communicating with children. You tell me if this is right or wrong, or what your thoughts on any of them are, okay? If you want me to repeat this, I'll tell you. According to the experts, it's really important to use simple language with children. Is that true?
Definitely. Because if you're using, like, to a 5-year-old, the word nocturnal, and they don't know what it means.
Oh, Jolie, I'll challenge you on that, my friend. My 5-year-olds know exactly what nocturnal animals are and can name them for you.
Well,
Use the wrong
Pick
word.
another word.
Let's see.
Jolie, we hear you.
Well, a complicated word
Yes.
Yes.
that they wouldn't understand. Like, let's say, for you tell them the definition of nocturnal if you're trying to tell them what a raccoon is. A raccoon is an animal that stays up during the night and usually hides out or sleeps during the day.
Yes.
Simple. Not.
Yes.
An owl is a nocturnal animal, like a raccoon.
Very good.
Right.
Okay. According to the experts, our dear 9-year-old friend Jolie, it's really important that when you are communicating with children, and we're talking about younger kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, that you make eye contact and that your body language speaks to them as well. Do you get that?
I would think that the eye contact wouldn't be as much so true because I feel like some kids would get nervous if you're
Right.
staring at them like this, like, how are you? How was your day?
Intimidating.
Then they'd probably get freaked out.
Oh, okay. Very, very
Um,
good. The final thing. Go ahead, Rach. Go ahead, Rach.
Everybody can make eye contact.
Yeah.
She's hitting it like right on the nose. It's a very I have to stop myself sometimes from saying to the child, can you look at me in the eyes when I'm speaking to you? Because they all can't do it.
Nice.
And I know for a fact that I have kids looking out the window while I'm teaching who can repeat everything to me.
That's like me and my friends. We're able to, like, the teacher's like, how do you talk and listen at the same time? And I'm thinking, it's magic. I don't know how.
I don't know about talking and listening.
Jolie, finally, according to the experts, when adults are speaking to children, they should do so with respect. They should respect the child's individuality, recognize and respect each child's unique personality, interest, and communication style. Avoid making assumptions or generalizations based on stereotypes. Oh, she's a 9-year-old girl. She won't get this. Is that your experience?
Well, usually when people talk to me, I wouldn't talk to someone who, like, let's say it's my mom's best friend. I've never known her. Before I met her, my mom would probably tell her something about me, and then she'd know that well, if you've never met someone, then probably you shouldn't be stereotyped or something.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency of stereotyping children a lot. Rachel, you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do that in general.
Like my little cousin,
Let's do it.
he's so smart. I asked
Right?
him a question. One of my cousins like, he won't know this. He's 4 years old. He won't know this. And I'm like, what is 2 + 2? He's like, 4.
Julie, the children in my class can tell you from their house to their community to Toronto and go all the way to the Northern Hemisphere and then tell you that that's half of the earth and that we live on the top part. And they understand it.
Yeah.
So they can learn whatever it is that you present. That's interesting to them because it matters to them.
Yeah.
It's relatable to them.
Yeah.
They want to know where they are in the world.
Mhm.
Is that interesting to you to know
Definitely.
where you stand in this big
Yeah.
world?
But honestly, when you approach a kid, when you talk to them, let's say you're talking to a 3, 4, 5-year-old, you might want to say, okay, let's say I have a ball and the ball is cut into half. There's the top bun and then there's the bottom bun in the burger. Then the top bun is where we live and the bottom bun is where another place is.
Right.
You have to compare something to it.
How about if I show you something concrete? Like, how about if I get the globe out and I show you that this is planet Earth?
Yeah.
Would that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Ellen Schwartz, I know you like the cognitive discussions amongst the pundits, if you will. And I therefore want to share something with you. And I'm very curious as to how you saw this in Jake. Uh, Piaget says that children build upon their experiences, that if you put a rattle in a child's crib, they'll hold on to it. And really, within 2 or 3 months of being born, they now know enough about an object that when another object comes into their surroundings, they will take that and grab it as well. And his point is that experiences are built upon experiences, and all things being equal, children therefore learn more and more and more about their surroundings and how to respond to it. Now, Jacob couldn't speak to you. So, how did you know how he was growing, what he was responding to? What were the measurements that you could actually see or feel or sense?
His smile, his beautiful smile, and his eyes. He knew he had like a memory like an elephant. But it was more connections with people, right? Like if my dad came in the door and he knew he could smell my dad. He just knew he'd get all excited before he even walked in the door. When his friends would come over on Sundays to sing to him, just one note on a guitar, it would be as if he was jumping out of himself. He'd be so excited because he knew, oh my gosh, they're here to sing for me, like my day. So he learned it just like everybody else, just by remembering and repetitive. And yeah. So he did, just by his smile, just his eyes, his smile, his response.
That's wonderful. I want to wrap things up, and I want to go around the table as I do so, asking each of you specifically why you were invited here, a message that you'd like to send out to others. So let's start with Bert. Are you zoned in now, Bert?
Yeah, I'm zoned in. I don't know what kind of message you want me to give everybody.
Well, here, go on my accolades, okay? I watched you raise your children, and I think you did a magnificent job. And as I said at the top of the show, you were my mentor in so many ways. I'm much more open to my son than I probably would have been otherwise. I grew up in an environment which we kind of kept things very close to our chest. But I saw you were incredibly open with your kids, and you let them know the beautiful stuff, and you let them know the struggles as well. My question to you is, parents who are raising children today who have ADHD or are ADHD, what's the best message you can give them?
Well, firstly, I think there's a lot more tools today that people can use, but there's also a lot more fluff out there that you have to sort through. When my kids were younger, it was new, and there wasn't many books on it. I read everything, and it was very new. Now it's a little bit different. I don't really know how it is, but the only thing I can tell people is really do your own homework. Don't listen to everybody. Don't listen to what's out there. Do your own research, do your own homework, and know your own kids, because your kids are totally unique and different than anybody else's, because they just are. And you have to understand them before you can do anything with them. I didn't understand my kids at all at the beginning because I didn't know what ADD was, and I didn't know what was going on. Everybody else isn't like this. Why are my kids like this? But as soon as I found out, I did some research and I relaxed and I said, okay, I can do this. And I did. But every kid is probably going to be a little different, so you can take some points of what I did, but it may not work for you. So I'm just saying that be original, because your kids are original.
Nice. And do a lot of research, which you did, right?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, I did only because I knew nothing. I knew nothing about ADD and because my kids were ADD, it showed me that, hey, I better look inside myself because I see some of me in them.
Yes.
Turns out I scored pretty high on the whole ADD chart, and I went on meds as well. And I went on meds for many years, and it helped a lot. I got off it because I didn't like the side effects, but I learned a lot from it. So I was kind of glad my kids had ADD, because I opened up and I became who I really wanted to be, in a sense.
Yeah, and was interesting is I think you tried the meds before you would let your kids try them, right?
Yeah. The school wanted me to put them on meds. It took me about 2 to 3 years to put them on. And I went to my doctor and I said, I want to try these meds first. So I want to know what they are and see what they're going to do to my kids. And when I did that, I had a 4 or 5 days in a row that I just sat there at the office where that job I was at, and I just worked better than I've ever worked in my whole life.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's give my kids this stuff. It's going to help them. And it did.
Very good. Julie, let's take this opportunity for you to give advice to kids your age, younger, maybe perhaps a bit older, and to adults listening as well. What would you say is the best way for kids to communicate with adults and for adults to communicate with kids?
So maybe for adults to communicate with kids, I'd say just stay nice and maybe just don't make a list of something you need them to do. Make a list of something that we can do together, that we have to do,
Nice.
or that we can do tomorrow, or fun.
Because lists are too much sometimes, aren't they?
Pressure.
Yeah, it's pressure, exactly. Well, what's the best way for kids to communicate with their parents, with adults?
Honestly, I think just like if you tell them everything that's going on, usually they would have the same experience as they have as a kid. So if you tell them what's going on, let's say you're having a problem with a friend, they've probably experienced that in one point of their lives. So they can tell you what to do and how to control your feelings about it.
Okay. I want to end this portion with your end of the show in terms of your responses. You told me before when we spoke prior to the interview that you were dealing with a 3-year-old kid and you wanted that kid to respond to something. You wanted them to behave, and you told them in a specific way how to do that. What was the process that you used?
What I did, I basically the example that I gave you was if I want you to be quiet, if we're in like a show or something. Like one time we were in a show and he was like screaming so loud.
Yes.
And I said, if you're quiet, I'll give you 4 high fives at home.
High fives.
Yeah, like.
Right.
So, yeah, he stayed quiet. He was excited. He's like, when are we going home? I want to give you a high five.
And that worked.
Yeah, it really did.
Okay, excellent.
When my mom gives me incentives to if I score 1 goal, then I get maybe like a treat.
Very nice.
Or an extra something. And it gives me an incentive. Oh, I really want this, so I'm going to work hard for it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to score a goal.
Nice. Thank you, Jolie.
You're welcome.
Ellen Schwartz, based on your experiences, what you've learned with what many would consider to be a challenging situation, although you probably don't look at it that way at all, what can you tell other parents who may be in similar situations?
I just think you have to follow their lead, like really listen to them, watch them, and learn from them. And they will surprise you every single time. But with my other 2 kids, one of the best things we ever did was long drives. Like when they would come home from school, what happens if you say to your kid, how was your day? What's your answer, Jolie? How was your day, honey?
Good.
What'd you do?
Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Right. You're never going to get that. So I used to pick them up and we would go, like, we'd take a long route home or we'd do something and they would talk. I would never say, how's your day? But those are the moments when your children will talk to you. So always leave those doors open, or late at night, all when they're trying to go to sleep and you're saying, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. Well, if you don't do that, they come into your bed, right? If they can't sleep, they're going to talk to you and they're going to tell you about their day. So those were kind of my little tricks.
What did your other two children learn about empathy,
Oh my gosh.
having Jake as a sibling and being part of raising him?
Well, how many 6 and 8-year-olds have to suction their brother or lift up his head because you're going down a hill and his head goes down and they have to pick it up, or run ahead and grab a door? And, those are just all little habits that they would do because they had to, but they would do that for anyone. Like if they see somebody that needs help, they're just running to help. You don't have to say, go help that person. It's just, they're very patient, understanding. They don't judge others. And Jacob had a huge part in teaching them those lessons.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Rachel Mammon, you have a bunch of little kids running around every single morning of the weekdays. You walk into a room which is full of energy, mostly like any other, not like any other room that I can think of. And you learn a lot from your students. What can you share with us about we as adults can take away from a classroom of 20, 25 5-year-olds?
Play. Find your little person. Avrum, you are a little boy in there that needs love and that needs to be taken care of and that needs compassion the same way that a child does. Find that little boy and that little girl and let them play. Like, have fun. I'm blessed to be in that environment where I can throw myself down on the carpet with them and play and take away all the noise that's in the world.
Yes.
It's a blessing. I can escape.
Yeah.
I would tell every adult to find that little piece of playfulness and feed it. Don't let that disappear. It disappears. We lose it as adults. We lose it the first time we bury someone. We lose it. It goes away in little dribs and drabs. Ellen, what you said about Jake teaching you so much it's what the Torah tells us about children with special needs, because I never in my life questioned God, ever. I have this unwavering emunah inside of me that I'm grateful to have, that I don't even fully understand. But I'll tell you, when I went to Beverly, I came home that day, and after being there the first day, I remember coming home to Sasha and I said, God forgot this place.
What is Beverly?
Beverly.
Beverly is it's a specific TDSB school for children with very special needs. So
severe, complex.
Severe. They cannot be integrated into TDSB schools, and the school exists within the public school board, but it's a very, very special place, right?
Yeah.
They take care of. I had a staff of nurses in my class. I had assistants that knew exactly what to do, how to change feeding tubes, how to just everything, how to suction. So I had staff working with me. I had 7 students in that class, and everyone had their role and knew how to take care of the kids so that they could actually attend school every day.
Yeah, anyone who I used to take down to Beverly with me, we used to run concerts down there for all the kids. And anytime I brought in guests who had never been to Beverly, they would, as they walk out, said, I don't think I'm ever going to complain again in my life. And then a week later they complain. But for that moment, it's like, I will not complain again.
But after experiencing that and then deciding that I wasn't going to run away from a reality and to go back and to do something that I know I should have been doing, I never learned more than I did from the children at that school. Ever. Way beyond compassion, just about life, about how to be, about how to be happy with what you have, with your lot, whatever it is.
Can I share something just before we wrap up? So as I said, I go into lots of different classrooms, right? I go into TDSB, Northboard, parochial schools, your school, Jolie, Leo Beck, we love Leo Beck, all kinds of schools and private schools. And I was just at one of the schools last week, and there was the wall. What happens on the walls? I'm always amazed. I always look at all the walls. But listen to this. So this was a pledge, and it was signed by all the kids in the school. It was so amazing. And I have to share. I pledge to help those in need any way I can, expecting nothing in return. I promise to do my utmost to understand the perspective of others, even when I'm upset and disagree with them. I promise to talk and promote peace to those around me, including friends, family, neighbors, and leaders. I will not judge people by their color, culture, religion, ability, or gender. I will do my best to donate to charities and advocacy groups that strive to promote peace and to those around me, including friends, family. I said that already. Sorry. Where's the end? Okay. I promise to work to solve any problem peacefully. I pledge to remember all those we have lost. I vow to use my hands in a good and supporting way. I will never engage in violence. And they all sign that.
That's beautiful.
Amazing.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up here. I really want to thank each and every one of you for being on the show. I found it so inspiring. I really did. We seem to touch on an awful lot, really based on many different types of children. And I think one of the things that I take away from this discussion is that you have to be open. You have to. No, you can't, eh?
Now
Is that better?
Now
it's
again.
good.
Yeah.
I'm
The music.
trying different technology. Thank you, honey. I'm trying different technology. Some of it works, some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think the key thing here is listen to children. And as you do, you will hear them. Watch how they grow. And that can be the best teacher that you could possibly imagine. I think we learned something very unique from Jolie. Jolie, I want to thank you very much for being with us once again.
Me.
Oh, it was wonderful to have you. And I think you were very open and honest and direct about how kids are and how kids think and what we need to do in order to create as best communication as possible. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank your mom for doing such a beautiful job with you. She really did. You're a wonderful, wonderful person.
Did I get her?
And I think your mom, yeah, you can bring her on. Sure, why not?
I'm really glad you brought this little girl on this show, because when you told me, I'm like, well, what are you going to do with this 9-year-old?
She was
great.
Yeah.
She was great.
I know.
She's an old soul, that one.
She is.
Yeah.
Delia, we were just complimenting you on how you've raised your daughter to date, and she's a magnificent girl. And don't just hear it from me. Ellen, what do you think of Jolie?
I love her. I love you. You're amazing.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Rachel, what do you think of Jolie? Well,
Doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better. This is it.
I didn't raise her. She raised me.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
She's still raising.
That's what we were saying
She's still
throughout the show.
raising me.
One of the things I really like about Jolie is you had a really good understanding of what I was speaking about, even though some of it was quite complex, and your vocabulary is outstanding. Do you guys work on vocabulary?
No way.
You must love to read. Do you read a lot?
Yeah,
That's
she does.
She does.
Right
Yeah.
here, I'm reading Harry Potter now.
There you go. Yeah.
Talk about big words.
Yeah, absolutely.
I asked Dahlia what
What
type of
Jolie
books.
was in JK before she started reading. The teachers used to laugh because she would use very big words, even when she was little. It ain't like, and she
It's
would,
very cute.
and she would do it like with seriousness, like almost like trying to be like an adult, so it was so cute.
It is cute. It is cute. I remember I asked Dahlia what I want to buy Julie a book. She said, "Well, is it Greek history that you love? You love
Just
Greek
history in
history?
general.
Greek history.
Just
I like
history.
that too.
Okay, so I bought you a book on history,
Yes,
Yeah.
in
which is very exciting for me.
my bookshop.
We love to love kids. We love to love kids. They teach us so
Oh, yeah.
much. So I want to thank everybody once again for being with us. I want to remind you that we have some really great shows coming up in the future. Nate Leipziger will be with us, Holocaust survivor and activist. And I am really excited. I want to show you this. To be having on the show in a few weeks, Hillel Hulkin. He's a very well-known Israeli writer, and he has been around for a while, and he has a lot to say about Israel at this time. So let us once again dedicate the show in conclusion to all of the people of Israel, to the Chayalim and Chayalot, the soldiers in the IDF, and to remember those who have passed, those who are hostages, and to pray that they be released as soon as possible and are able to come home and be with their family and cherish and love and experience what we have in our lives. I also want to say thank you to all the Israeli parents and grandparents and really families who are putting their children on the front line of the Jewish people. We who are here in the diaspora, we send our kids to university once they finished high school. In Israel, their kids go off to the war or go off to the army, and in this case, go off to war. And we are very appreciative of the Israeli parents for having the courage and the bravery to be in Israel and to send their children to the IDF. With that, thank you very much to all my guests. You guys were marvelous. The show was great. And I look forward down the road to doing another show together with you. I'm Yisrael Chai. The nation of Israel lives. Thank you so much. Lila Tov. Good night.